There's a version of you out there living your dream life. What if I told you the only thing keeping you from them is a complete illusion? Right now, at this very moment, there's a version of you that is completely and utterly free. This you has the career you've always dreamed of, the relationships you crave, and that deep sense of purpose you can feel in your bones. They are living a life without limits. But that version of you is trapped. You're locked away in a prison, and the warden of that prison is you. It's the part of you that listens to the whispers of fear. For years, I had a secret fear that kept me from going after my biggest dreams. It was this cold, heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach, a voice in my head on a constant loop, telling me all the reasons I'd fail, all the ways I wasn't good enough, and all the horrible things that would happen if I dared to step outside the lines. I honestly thought I was the only one. I thought it was some personal failing, a character flaw, a sign that I just wasn't cut out for the life I so desperately wanted. It wasn't until I finally hit a breaking point, until the pain of staying, the same became scarier than the fear of changing, that I finally decided to figure this invisible force out. What I discovered about the science of fear wasn't just interesting. It was the key that unlocked everything. So what did my invisible prison actually feel like? Let me take you inside my head. Section 1. The invisible prison for me. It was the dream of leaving my stable, sensible job to start my own creative business. This wasn't just a career change. It felt like a calling. It was the one thing that would light me up, the thing that felt like me. But every single time I even thought about taking the first step, drafting a business plan or just registering a domain name, the walls of that prison would just appear out of nowhere. My heart would start pounding. My palms would get sweaty, and the voice of the warden, my own fear, would start its usual chant. What if you fail? You'll be a laughingstock. You'll lose all your savings. You're not smart enough, not talented enough, not disciplined enough. The fear wasn't just a thought. It was a physical thing. It was a knot in my chest that made it hard to breathe, a weight that made my arms and legs feel heavy and useless. But the worst part, the most twisted part, was the story I told myself about it. I believed the fear was proof of my own inadequacy. I'd look at successful people and think, they're just built different. I figured they didn't have this warden in their head. They were just born fearless. That belief was the lock on my cell door, kept me from even trying because I was convinced that feeling fear meant I was already defeated. I spent years stuck like that, watching the life I wanted drift further and further away, all while telling myself that this safe, predictable, and deeply unfulfilling existence was all I was capable of. The dream wasn't just on hold. It felt like it was dying, and I was the one letting it happen. For years, I thought this fear was my own personal monster. But what if it's not a monster at all? What if it's an ancient security guard that's standard issue in every human brain? Section 2. The Universal Warden. The Science of Fear. My turning point came when I started to see my fear not as my own personal weakness, but as a biological program. A what-if question changed my perspective. What if this warden wasn't a monster unique to me, but an ancient security guard that's standard issue in every single human brain? That's when I dove into the science, and it changed everything. Our fear response is primal. It's hardwired into our biology. All starts in a tiny, almond-shaped part of the brain called the amygdala. Think of the amygdala as your brain's hypersensitive alarm system. Its only job is to constantly scan everything you see, hear, and feel for potential threats. When it spots one, it yanks the alarm, triggering that legendary fight-or-flight response. That alarm signal shoots over to the hypothalamus, which is like the command center. The hypothalamus immediately floods your system with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This is what causes all those intense physical feelings of fear. Your heart pounds to pump more blood to your muscles. You start breathing faster, and you sweat to cool down, all to get you ready to either fight the threat or run for your life. It's an incredible system, perfected over millions of years of evolution. It's what saved our ancestors from saber-toothed tigers. But here's the catch. Your amygdala isn't very good at telling the difference between a real saber-toothed tiger and an imagined one. Public speaking, asking for a raise, starting a business, the fear of getting rejected to your ancient brain, these modern anxieties can trigger the exact same life or death alarm. Your brain thinks your social standing or your ego is in mortal danger, and it sounds the alarm all the same. On top of that, we can learn our fears through a process called conditioning. Have one bad experience, and your brain can learn to freak out in all similar situations, even when there's no real threat. Understanding this was like finding a light switch in a pitch-black room. My fear wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign that my ancient protective biology was working perfectly. The problem wasn't the fear itself. The problem was that I was letting this primitive alarm system, designed for short-term survival, make long-term decisions about my life. So if we're all hardwired for fear, what are we supposed to do? Is the goal to just become fearless? The answer is no. And the real breakthrough is realizing that fear isn't your enemy. Section 3. The turning point. Fear is a messenger. The real breakthrough, the master key to the whole prison, wasn't trying to become fearless. That's a total myth. The people we admire aren't fearless. They've just learned to change their relationship with fear. I learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. What I finally understood was this. Fear isn't an enemy you have to destroy. It's a messenger you need to listen to. It's carrying a message, usually a distorted one, about something you really care about. When you feel fear, it's a signal that you're standing at the very edge of your comfort zone, and that something important is on the line. So instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? Started asking new questions. What is this fear trying to protect me from? What belief is firing off this reaction? And what do I care about so much that the idea of losing it feels this terrifying? This shift changed everything. The fear of starting my business wasn't just a fear of failure. When I listened, I realized it was a fear of judgment from my family. It was a fear of proving my own deepest self-doubts right. It was a fear of losing the security I'd worked so hard to build. By listening to the message, instead of just reacting to the alarm, I could start to deal with the real issues. I could separate the real risks from the crazy, irrational anxieties. The fear was no longer my warden. It was more like a consultant, nervously handing me a worst-case scenario that I could now look at, think about, and actually plan for. Understanding your fear is the first step, but how do you actually break its hold on you? It's not about one giant leap. It's about having the right toolkit. Here are the 4 strategies that took me from prisoner to architect of my own life. Section 4. Unlocking the door. For actionable strategies, so. Once I knew what fear was really about, I could start building a toolkit to actually deal with it. These are the steps that help me stop being a prisoner and start being the architect of my own life. First, take tiny steps to build momentum. The biggest mistake we make is trying to take one giant leap out of our comfort zone. That just triggers a massive fear response and leads to instant paralysis. The secret is to break your scary goal into ridiculously small, almost laughably easy actions. For me, instead of start a business, my first step was spend 15 minutes researching a business name. The next was buy the domain. Each tiny success was a small win. It built momentum and started to show my brain that this new territory wasn't as deadly as it thought. With every little step, fear's grip gets weaker and your confidence gets stronger. Second, use gradual safe exposure. One of the best tools for getting over fear is what psychologists call exposure therapy. It just means you have to face what you're scared of, but you do it step by step in a safe way. If you're terrified of public speaking, you don't start with a TED Talk. You start by just sharing an opinion in a small meeting. Then maybe you practice a presentation for a friend. Then you volunteer to speak for 2 minutes at a team meeting. By showing your brain over and over that the scary thing doesn't end in disaster, you slowly desensitize the fear response. You are literally rewiring your brain's alarm system. Third, reframe your thoughts with visualization and positive self-talk. Your brain believes the stories you tell it. If your inner monologue is "I'm going to fail," "this is a disaster," you are literally practicing for failure. Top athletes know this. They use visualization and positive self-talk to manage anxiety and program their minds for success. I started spending 5 minutes every morning just visualizing what success would look and feel like. I came up with simple, positive statements to fight back against the negative voice, like I can handle any challenge that comes up. This isn't about being delusional. It's about shifting your focus from what if I fail to but what if I succeed. Fourth, find your allies. Fear absolutely loves to grow in isolation. When you keep your fears to yourself, They just get louder and scarier in the echo chamber of your own mind. Sharing what you're afraid of with a supportive friend, a partner, a mentor, it's a total game changer. It takes away the fear's power. When I finally told a close friend about my business idea and how terrified I was, he didn't laugh. He just said, "It's about time." That one conversation gave me the encouragement and accountability I needed to keep going when things got scary. So what does life look like on the other side of that wall? Did I conquer fear? And does it ever come back? Section 5. Life outside the walls. So what happened? I magically become a fearless superhero overnight? Absolutely not. The fear didn't just disappear. My relationship with it is completely different now. Today, the business I used to just dream about is my reality. And yeah, there are still days when the old anxieties creep in, when a new challenge makes that familiar knot tighten in my stomach. But now, I know what it is. I see it as a sign that I'm growing, that I'm pushing my own boundaries. The fear is no longer the warden of my prison. Now it's just a passenger in the car. It can shout and complain all it wants from the back seat, but it is no longer allowed to touch the steering wheel. I'm the one who's driving. I've learned that courage isn't something you have, something you build. It's a muscle that gets stronger every single time you choose to act in the presence of fear. The freedom on the other side isn't a life without fear. It's a life where fear no longer makes your decisions for you. And that freedom is worth everything. So now I want to turn this back to you. What's the one fear that's holding you back right now? It's the dream, the goal, or maybe even the conversation that's being held hostage by that fear. I want you to really think about it. And I want you to go down to the comments and share one small, tiny, almost insignificant step you can take this week to face it. It can be as simple as a 5-minute Google search, sending one email, or just saying one scary sentence out loud to a friend you trust. Look, fear is a natural, fundamental part of being human. It's there to protect you, but it can also build a prison around you if you let it. The only thing standing between you and everything you want is not the fear itself, but the story you've been telling yourself about what that fear means. It's time to stop letting that old story run your life. It's time to realize that fear is not a stop sign. It's an invitation to grow. It's a signpost telling you that you are right on the verge of becoming the person you were always meant to be. It's time to write a new story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with someone who might find this video helpful. We would love you to join our weekly newsletter. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and please join us in our next video by clicking above.